Hey YouTube friends, today I'm going to talk about PHP filters. And a filter you can think of like a coffee cup, and you pour your coffee and it only lets through the good stuff, and that's what we're going to do. Now there's a lot to these filters, so try to listen carefully. If I go to php.net, what we have are functions to use our filters on. We're going to look at filter var array, and filter input. Okay, and you'll be able to pick up the rest after I give you a short walkthrough. And basically we can use filters to validate or sanitize data. Validating, making sure that it is what we want it to be, and sanitizing to clean it up. Okay, they have some examples on here, but it is a little busy and a little tricky. So the first thing we can do, we can say filter list, and I'll just do f equals filter list, and let me echo a pre tag, and I will do print r of f and refresh, and these are all of our filters we can use, and that's just if you want to type this, I guess, but we don't need it for this. So what we do is filter var, and that's the number 1 that we're going to play around with first. And what we do is we type in the value, I'll just say 22, and then the type of filter we want to apply. And you can see here we can use all of these. Now you might think I want to validate an int, so you type int, but that's not right, because that's just not a real thing. You'd have to type filter validate int. Okay, and it's really long, and this is a constant. There's a lot of these. You can just attach the string here at the end of it. So if this was an email, I would attach email at the end. And this is a very simple example. So I'll save this and refresh, and it gives me back 22. Now what if I have an A in there? I'll refresh and I get nothing. And it looks like, well, there's a problem, but nope, it's just a false value. So if you actually had this in an if statement, so if this was true, we'll say echo true, else echo false, and refresh, and it gives us false, and delete the A, refresh, and it's true. Okay, so nothing too complex about that. It either gives us the value or gives us false. Let's do filter var, and we'll do test at test.com, and we'll do filter validate email, and refresh. Oh, did I make a I spelled this wrong. Filter var, refresh, and we're not getting anything because I didn't echo it. That's embarrassing. Okay, refresh that, and we'll get the email address. What about com.au for Australia? That passes. And let's see if it passes for this one. Wow, that's strange. 2 @ signs, refresh, and then it fails. Now I'll show you how to put some stricter rules on this. One more I'll show you is they have a validate IP, and we could do filter validate IP. You can validate IP version 4 and 6, and to do that we can add another thing down here, and we add a flag to it. So I'll say filter flag IP version 4, and refresh, and that one's good. Now that's not an IP version 4 because it's too many decimals. There's a lot of flags also on here. So you first apply your filter, and then you apply optional options or flags. Okay, so it might seem a little confusing at first. Let me do a URL. By showing you the examples, I think it'll be easier to understand. Okay, so I'm going to validate mysite.com, and I want this to be a URL. So filter validate URL, and refresh. That's good. And you can also put on a couple flags with this one. One, for example, would be filter flag path required. Okay, and the path would be the HTTP. So if I get rid of this, it's going to be false. If I put this back, well, I guess we need the page name, sorry, index.php for the path name, and there it is. Wrong thing. Another one would be flag query required. And what is a query? That's the string on the end, ID equals 44. And that one will pass. So you can validate your input this way, and there's no need to go through all of these. Let's do the sanitize real quick. And let's get rid of this and get rid of this. Let's sanitize a string to make it only a number. So what if we had 500C, 400C, okay? And we want to get rid of the number. We can say filter, sanitize, number, int. Now you need to put number here because there are other types of numbers. Let me open up the PHP area, and I was just showing you some of these validators here, okay, under validate filters. And you have options and you have flags, and I was just showing you all the options in here. Right now we moved on to sanitize, and you can sanitize stuff and it tells you what it does. No need to go all through these. It's just kind of playing around, but I want to show you some that are cool. So we're sanitizing this one, and you see how it strips out the letter C and we only get integer values. So it's kind of a quick way of doing stuff. We can do filter sanitize string, and let's do hey. Let's see what that does. Gets rid of these little brackets, it appears. Let me view the page source. Yeah, it gets rid of these brackets and extra things. So let me also show you some options. This one's a little bit different, but we're going to do the filter validate int. So try to remember, there's validate and there's sanitize, okay? And validate is for checking things, and sanitizing is for cleaning. When I think of sanitize, I think of like a dirty toilet bowl and you put some bleach in it, okay? Okay, so for options we put an array at the end, and I'll just hit enter so it's easier to read. So for filter validate int, you can do some options, and up in here you see filter validate int, and it says you can specify a min range and a max range, and optionally you can also put flags on it. I'm just going to show you the min and max range, and I can say min range is 0. Oops, that says mix. And max range is 4. And refresh, it gives us our value back. Good. And what if we do the number 5? Refresh. That's not supposed to work. 6. Let me get rid of this 0 and try it this way. Well, I had it working a minute ago. I'm not too sure what I did wrong. Okay, so now let's move on to filter var array. If we want to do the same thing to a bunch of array values rather than one by one, let's first make an array. Let's call it data. And let's do a associative array, and let's say key is 500, other, and this will be another array, and let's say 520, and I guess I'll just pop in a name up here. Name is Jesse, comma. Let me refresh, make sure I have no errors. Looks like I do. Got a semicolon in there. Okay, there we go. And then we can pass some arguments. First, let me say we're going to do this filter var array. We're going to pass in our data, and then we're going to pass in our arguments. Okay, so we have to create an argument array also. So let's say args equals array, and what we do is we match up each of these associative keys with how we want to validate it. So if I say name, I want to validate this with filter validate string. How about key, and I'll do filter validate int, and other. This one might trick you up because this one's an array, this other one. So we actually created another array with our values in here. And I'll say filter to apply to every one of these. I'm going to say filter validate int. And let's echo this out. Okay. Refresh. And this is a mouthful. Sorry, there is no validate string. I meant sanitize. Refresh. We get an array. I'll say E equals this, and I'll print R of E so we can see the results. Refresh. It looks like it worked for Jesse. What if I had up in my name it was Jesse 444? Well, that is a string. How about for the integer, I'll say dot E. Refresh. And this one's empty because it's false. It looks like this array didn't pass through. Let's see what happens if I pop some little strings around there. Refresh. No good. Flags. Filter. Require. Scalar. Okay, I don't know what I've done wrong on this one, but it's something like this. Just check out the documents. So, this is just a different way to validate. It has its uses. Oh, the last one, filter input. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. And this is another cool thing. Let's say if isSet of get ID, then we're going to do a filter input. And I'll just say A equals filter input, and we specify the kind of input we're doing. We're doing input underscore get, and then we choose the name of the get, which would be ID in this case. And then what do we want to validate? Let's do filter validate int. I keep doing that because that's what I seem to only remember. Var dump of A. And I'll refresh, and nothing's showing up, so I'll go to the end of this and pop in ID equals 344, and we get that. Okay, and it's kind of doing the same thing. If I put a letter in there, it's not going to work. How about we validate an email? dog@dog.com. Cool. So I think you get the idea. No need to stretch this on any longer than it's going, and happy holidays everyone. Thanks for watching.